Hello and welcome to the Masterclass. Before we dive in, I want to tell you something very important. What you're about to experience with me today in this Masterclass may be already the turning point that you've needed. Clarity, insight, and a direction on the path to healing and recovery. But I also want to say this. For a very select few of you, those who are truly serious about changing your lives, there's something waiting for you at the end of this presentation that may be even more transformative than anything that you'll learn today. It's not for everyone. In fact, it's only for those that are ready to take a massive leap forward. So please watch this all the way through to the end. Not only because of the content here could change your life, but because what I'm going to share with you at the end could open a door to something you didn't even know was possible. You'll know if it's for you when you hear it. Stay with me to the very end. You won't want to miss this. There was a day in my life when I believed that I had fully recovered, when I thought that sobriety was something I could manage on my own. I had stopped drinking and using, I was going to meetings, and I was saying the right things. But I hadn't taken even that first step. You see, a mentor of mine with over 45 years of sobriety once asked me, "Do you know the day that you truly recovered from alcoholism?" I told him, "Yeah, I think I do. It was right after I met you, and I stopped drinking and using, and I joined the AA program." And he said, "Well, you couldn't be more wrong." He told me to look further down the road to examine what came after the declaration. And when I did, I saw it. 4.5 years later, I drank again, and it nearly killed me. It wasn't until after that relapse, after jail and felony DUI and near death, that I fully conceded to my innermost self that I had no power to overcome this disease. None. I had been trying to manage an illness that can't be managed. Not by meetings anyway. Not by good intentions. Not by even begging God to keep me sober one day at a time. I had never fully taken my first step. Hadn't had a first step experience. What step one really means, it doesn't say we admitted that we drank too much. It says we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. Powerless, unmanageable, past tense. It's not about stopping drinking, it's about surrender. We don't stop drinking and then recover. We admit defeat and then we begin a process of recovery and of healing. My problem wasn't that I drank too much, guys. It was once I started, I couldn't stop. And when I stopped, I couldn't stay stopped. That's the truth of step one. The allergy and the obsession of Dr. Silkworth that he called a physical allergy or mental obsession. When I drink, I set off a craving in this body that the average person never feels. He called it a phenomenon of craving, and he said it never happens to the normal drinker. Resonate with you? And when I'm not drinking, I'm obsessed about the idea of doing it again. No human power could relieve me of that cycle. Not my wife, not my kids, not my career, not even my own will. My will was broken. My thinking was distorted. My life was unmanageable. That's what it means to be powerless. You see, many people confuse heavy drinking with alcoholism, but not everyone who drinks too much is an alcoholic, are they? A moderate drinker can stop if they have a sufficient enough reason to do it. A hard drinker might need help, but he can usually cut back if he must. But the real alcoholic, the real deal, once they start, like me, they lose control. There is no sufficient reason at that point to stop, no matter what. That was me. What makes step one so dangerous to ignore is this. Without step one, without that deep personal surrender and experience with step one, you might think you're just going to meetings is enough, or following a motivational speaker or a sponsor, or managing your day one day at a time. But if you're like me, and I know you are, and you don't fully concede to your innermost self that you have a disease that you cannot control and manage, you're likely drinking again. And the next time, you might not make it back, my friends. So ask yourself this question. When you drink, do you crave more, like me? Do you drink even when you don't want to? Have you tried to stop and you can't? Do you believe that sheer willpower can save you and keep you sober? If you answer yes to these, you may be powerless just like me. But here's the truth. That powerlessness is not a curse. It's a beginning to your freedom. The authors of the big book that we're studying in say that this is a story of how thousands and thousands, and today's to date, millions and millions of men and women have recovered from alcoholism and addiction and mental illness. Not managing it, not surviving it, they fully recovered. It's in past tense. Step one is the only step that we take 100% of. It requires it. It's the foundation of everything else that follows. Surrendering completely, admitting defeat, and beginning the process of being restored to power through something greater than yourself. That's step one. And it saved my life, my friends. If you want to fully experience step one, there are 3 truths that you must confront. They must come from a specific order as well. Admittance, acceptance, and surrender, in that order. This isn't a physiological theory. It's a sequence of awakening that saved my life, and it'll save yours. Admittance, the truth you can't lie about anymore. We're not talking about saying, hey, I'm Cord, I'm an alcoholic, I'm here at a meeting today. We've all said that. That's not a step one. We've said it in court and AA meetings or in treatment centers or in group therapy. That's not admittance. Not the kind of step one demands. Real admittance happens in your innermost self only. It's that quiet moment when the excuses are all gone and it's just you. It's not about who's listening. It's about who's done lying. Sound familiar? It's when you say to your innermost self, maybe even for the first time, I have a disease. I'm not in control of it. I'm not safe. I'm going to die if I keep living this way. It's not dramatic. It's loud. And it shakes the soul when you feel it. If you haven't gotten there yet, don't panic. You're about to. Just don't skip it. Because without full admittance, the rest is hollow. Okay, number 2, acceptance. The death or denial admittance says, yes, I have this disease. But acceptance says, this is the truth about me and my life and my situation. True acceptance is spiritual to us. It's not resignation. It's not giving up. It's giving into the reality of who we are and what we have. It means I stop fighting the label, stop bargaining, modifying, and comparing. I stop saying, well, maybe it's just a binge drinker I am. I can handle this weed or this pill. No, acceptance is this. I am who I am, I have what I have, and it's never going to change on its own. That's the gut punch. That's the wall you hit. That's where ego starts to break and go away. And when ego breaks, something sacred can finally enter into the picture. Surrender. That's number 3. The first act of real power is surrender, not weakness. It's a beginning of strength. It's the final breath of step 1. I can't. God can. So I'll let Him in. But until we've admitted powerlessness and accepted it as permanent, you will never surrender for real. Your ego won't let you. You might comply, go to meetings, do all that. You might perform, be a good alcoholic, but surrender, that takes humility born from truth. The great irony is that the moment you surrender, you're finally in a position to receive real power. Not your power, not human power, but the power that can actually change you from the inside out. And that, my friends, leads you directly into step 2. 3 questions that matter are this. So as you wrap up your first step, I want to ask you honestly, privately, without filters or performance or your ego, ask yourself these questions. Have I fully admitted to my innermost self that I am powerless with my addiction? That my life is truly unmanageable because of it? Yes or no? Number 2, have I fully accepted that I have a disease, that it is part of who I am, my DNA, and that no amount of willpower or self-will can remove it? Yes or no? And number 3, am I willing or able to surrender this condition of mine to a power greater than myself that I've never experienced before? Yes or no? Don't rush your answers. Write them down. Come back to them tomorrow. Review this again, because the truth is, your life might depend on how honest you are with these 3 questions. Final word on step 1. Step 1 isn't about staying sober. Not at all. It's not about meetings or coins or calendars or admittance or none of that stuff that's going on. Step 1 is about identity. It's about reality. It's about facing raw truth that you don't have power. But here's the promise. The moment that you finally fully concede and truly admit, the door opens. And on the other side of this door is the life that you've never imagined possible. Let's walk this together, my friends. Next, we'll talk about the power that comes that can restore us. Step 2 is about that. After my first step experience, after I finally hit my knees and begged for help, something changed in me. That night in the hospital, when I thought I was dying, I wasn't asking a group of doctors to save me. No, I wasn't dialing a mentor or a hotline or a sponsor. My heart cried out for someone I hadn't spoken to for years. And I said, please help me. And I meant it. I didn't fully understand what I was doing, but I was reaching beyond myself for the first time. And that, my friends, is the beginning of step 2. I came to believe that there's a power greater than myself that could restore my sanity. It doesn't say I found God. It doesn't say I understand God. It says I came to believe in something besides myself. That is step 2. It's what it's asking me for. An open heart and the idea that I need real power and it doesn't come from me. So let's be honest about this. I know my thinking was more obscured. My confused and cloudy mind caused me more suffering, more legal trouble, and more pain and more damage than anything or anyone else has ever done to me. That's why I relate so deeply with what the Big Book says to me. The alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink. I don't. Ask yourself a question. When you drink, do you lose power? Do you lose the power to choose? If you had the power to just say no, wouldn't you have done it? Would you need me? Would you need a mentor? Would you need a meeting, a program? Would you need God? No, you would just stop drinking, wouldn't you? As I told you in the story, I watched my brother drink wine every day, and then one day he chose to stop because it was affecting his work. And he did. And just like that, he stopped. That's when I knew I was not like him, and he was not like me. Step 1 told me the truth, that I'm powerless. Step 2 offered a solution to that there is power to be found here, and it's not me. If you've had a first step experience, then somewhere in your soul, my friends, you know this, that you don't have power, that you need more information, that you don't need a better motivational speaker, you don't need another TED Talk or another treatment center or a new accountability partner. You need power, real power, a power that can restore your thinking, your spirit, and your life. Let's look at the second part of step 2. Could restore our sanity. That doesn't mean that you were straitjacketed. It means that every time you return to the same destructive behavior, expecting a different outcome, you were dealing with insanity, doesn't it? Drinking after DUIs, really? Using after losing everything, really? Telling yourself you could stop after proving 1,000 times that you can't, that you're wrong? That is insanity. Step 2 says very clearly, what if there was a way back to sanity that's easier than you think? What if your obsession could be lifted? What if your broken thinking could be restored? What if your hopelessness could be replaced with purpose? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Ask yourself a question. Do you believe that a power exists that's greater than yourself that could restore your sanity? Even just a little? Just try on the idea? That's enough. That's where step 2 begins. So what if you don't believe in God? Some people resist step 2 because of that big scary word called God, or the word power. They think it's just a backdoor to religion. Not true. But listen closely. The 12 steps don't require religion. It's not in there. They require honesty and openness and an idea, right? Bill W. didn't say, I came to believe in Jesus Christ, Allah, or Buddha. He said, I came to believe that God could and would if he were sought, a God of his understanding, not yours, not understood, not obeyed, just sought out. Step 2 doesn't say, I found God. It says, I became willing to believe in something greater than myself. And that's all you need. So I ask you this, are you willing to believe that something greater than you might be able to help you? Even just a little bit. Even if it's just the universe, the truth, energy, the steps, a group, or a God of your understanding. That willingness is your bridge to freedom. You see, I spent years, like most people, going to meetings, sipping coffee in the back and saying things like, one day at a time, while I quietly planned my next relapse. That's not recovery, that's purgatory. Middle of the road sobriety is a form of insanity. It's living dry but not living free. It's going to meetings and never going to God. It's clinging and to control while pretending to surrender. I tried it. I failed it. You do too. You can't live long in that space. The disease will catch you sleeping, my friend. A new power and a new direction. That's what you need. The big book promises something radical in step 2. And it says this: as soon as I can admit the possibility of a higher power, I will be surrounded by a new feeling of power and direction that I've never experienced. It's new, not recycled, not borrowed, not forced. It's new. New power, new direction, new mind. Get it? Step 2 is not about religion. It's about transformation. It's about the first moment you stop trying to fix yourself and start becoming open to being transformed. There are 3 questions to walk you into step 3. 1, do I believe I am insane when it comes to my alcohol, my drugs, addiction, yes or no? Do I believe that I lack the power to fix this on my own, yes or no? Am I willing to believe that something greater than myself might be the answer to restore my sanity, yes or no? But if you said yes to even the last one, you're ready for step 3, my friends. Let's go find some real power, you and me. Made a decision to turn my life and my will over to the care of God as I understand Him. Step 3 is where all that begins to change. This is the step that moves us from awareness to action, from understanding to surrender, from self-will to God's will. It's the moment where we stop asking, how do I stay sober just today, one day at a time? And I start asking, what does God want from me today? It is the battlefield of the soul. I was in the military, and there's an old saying that I heard 1,000 times. And it was, there's no atheist in a foxhole, boys. If you've ever been in that foxhole while bullets are flying, you know exactly what I mean. When death is certain and hope is gone, and there's only one thing to do, one place left to turn, and it's upward. That was me at the height of my addiction. Not in the literal foxhole, but in the trenches of hopeless war with myself. I was spiritually bankrupt, emotionally dead, mentally clouded, and physically dying. There was no logic left, no court, no doctor, no family member that could save me. Only one thing left, a straight-up decision, the most important decision of my entire life, and that was to turn to my God, a God of my understanding. Let's talk briefly what you've been experiencing in the series about religion versus spirituality. I grew up LDS, or Mormon, for those of you that don't know what LDS is. And I had a foundation that I knew of God. But knowing God, knowing what God is, and living with God are 2 separate things. See, I learned something powerful, that religion is for people who are afraid of going to hell, and spirituality is for the rest of us that have already been there. That's a quote from Vine Dolores Sue. And I've been there. I've lived that hell. I drank it. I slept it. I ate it. Panhandled it inside and out. Lost everything. And came to a place where I stopped running. I came to believe that only God and only one power could get me out of this horrible situation. And so I made that decision, a real one, a sacred one, and I surrendered everything to Him. It's like the hard way or the easy way. You can try this the hard way. I did. I tried the courts and the therapists, the meetings, treatment centers, books, willpower, another mentor, another guru. I tried middle-of-the-road solutions. I tried managing my addiction with logic and discipline. But here's the truth. If self-will could have saved me, I would have saved myself a long time ago. God wasn't my first choice. He was my last resort. But once I made that decision to turn everything over to Him, my will, my life, everything changed. God has all the power, right? Step 3 reads this, page 59. Made a decision to turn my life and my will over to the care of God as I understand Him. If you go over to page 60, where we were studying there is one who has all power, it reads. That one is God. May you find Him now. Let me ask you a question. Do you have all the power to change your life? Yes or no? Does your mentor, your spouse, a therapist? Yes or no? Does the idea of God sound familiar to you and something you're interested in? A higher power? Yes or no? So step 3 is a turning point. It's not just saying, I believe. That's step 2. Step 3 is doing something about it. On page 62 of the big book, they write about selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think it is the root of our troubles. Read it again. Go to page 62. The root, not the branch, not a symptom, it's the root of our troubles. And what does the selfish look like? It looks like control and ego and manipulation, like planning and scheming and hustling and hiding. It looks like trying to direct your show all the time, making everyone else fit into your little script so that you can feel okay. Every person is a player in your drama, and you're the director. And if they just follow your script, life would be great. But guess what? The play like that doesn't work. The actors will never follow your lead. The lights don't cue. And at the ending, it always crashes. And so we drink, or we rage, or we retreat, or we run. So here's the question. Are you done running? Are you done directing your show? Because if you are, then you're ready to take step 3, a new employer. Turn over to page 63 again. Here's the promise of step 3. It's a cool promise. It says, when we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Man, that hit me like a lightning bolt when I realized that. I had a new employer, not a partner, not a consultant, not a cheerleader. I had an employer, somebody that could tell me what to do. God doesn't need a partner. He needs a worker, someone who's finally willing to follow and not lead, somebody who would get their ego out of the way. We were reborn, it says. It's what happened to me, and it'll happen for you. After the 3rd step, I was no longer the man that I had been. That guy died. And in his place, God began to build and mold someone new that had purpose. Step 3 is a decision. That's it. You're not surrendering everything perfectly, but you're saying, God, I'm done playing God. You take it from here. That's it. Are you ready, my friends, to make that decision? And if you are, ask yourself the question, the hard question. Am I willing at this point in my life to turn my will, my thoughts, my desires, my instincts over to the care of God as I understand it? Am I willing to turn my life, my actions, my relationships, and my future over to the care of God? Do I believe that only God has the power to save me from myself? And if so, then it's time to say the 3rd step prayer together. The 3rd step prayer is a beautiful prayer. Find a quiet place. Take it seriously. Kneel if you can. And with me, say those words. Let them land. God, I offer myself to you, to build with me and do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondage of myself, that I will better do your will. Take away my difficulties, that I'll have victory over them and may bear witness to another person who suffers of your power, your love, and your way of life. I will do your will always. Amen. That's it. That's the turning point. It's a beautiful thing. Let me give you some final thoughts. Step 3 doesn't mean your life gets easy from here. It doesn't mean you will never struggle again. No. But it does mean that from now on, you're not the one in charge. And here's the good news. God doesn't hire and fire based on performance, my friends. He's not looking for perfection. He's just asking, will you give me the wheel finally? And if you do, He will lead you out of the hell that you created for yourself. I'm living proof of that. Welcome to freedom, my friends. Let's move on to step 4. It's time to clean house. See, step 4 and 5 are inventory and confession time. Step 4 says, I made a searching, fearless, moral inventory of myself. And step 5 goes on to say about confession. Talk about confession. Step 4 is where the work begins. The big book tells us that clear terms on 63 are that we launch in this vigorous course of action. That a step 4, which is a personal house cleaning, most of us have never attempted. It says we launched. We didn't stroll along or wander out, talk about it. We launched into a direction that implies focus and force and commitment. We must go after step 4 with vigor and intention. Step 4 is not just about listing our wrongs. It's about removing the blocks to our connection with God or higher power. Liquor is merely a symptom of a deeper spiritual disease. The goal is to uncover the causes and conditions that block me from the Spirit. The Big Book says it clearly. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it would have little permanent effect unless once followed by a strenuous effort to face and to rid ourselves of the things that have been blocking us from our spirituality. This is a spiritual surgery that precedes healing. We begin by taking an inventory like a failing business would. We weren't listing assets, we're looking for damaged goods, character defects and shortcomings that destroy relationships and inner peace and spiritual connection. On page 84, it talks about that we did exactly the same thing with our life. We took a stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws on the makeup of ourselves that caused failure. And then it goes on to say that being convinced that self manifested in various ways was what had defeated us, we considered these common manifestations. The number one offender that they talk about is resentment. Most spiritual poison is the resentment that we carry. We list resentments, the people, the institutions, the principles that angered us. We ask, why are we angry? Why did it affect us, and how did it affect us? Where were we selfish and self-seeking and frightened or fearful? And then we ask the hard question, what's my part in that? Years ago, during an aftercare session, I argued against an inventory of my assets, and I said my good traits didn't cause me DUIs and my misery. That was true. My defects and my fear, resentment, self-pity, pride, they were the culprits. They were the spiritual blinders that kept me from God. We inventory our fears. Every fear is tied to self-reliance, and self-reliance always falls short. Step 5 says we admitted to God and to ourselves and to another human being these things we found in Step 4. The exact nature of our wrongs. Now we speak it aloud, all of it. We read on page 59 that we admitted to ourselves, to God, to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs in our Step 4. And in Step 5, we uncover the roots, the exact nature of the wrong. Not just what we did, but how we did it, why we did it, the fear, the selfishness, the dishonesty beneath the surface. This is the step that saves us from shame, being able to talk about it. The act of sharing unburdens us. Page 75 gives us a specific promise of Step 5. Love it. It says we pocket our pride and we go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past that we have. And then withholding nothing from that, we become delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears will fall from us. We will begin to feel the nearness to our Creator. We feel like we're on this broad highway walking hand in hand with the Spirit of the universe. That's not poetic fluff. No, that's a promise. If you finish Step 5 and don't feel at peace, your mentor should ask you, like mine did with me, are you happy with what you've done? If you say no, he'll ask, can you look the world in the eye? If you say no, then you've left something out right here, just like me. I had left out myself, my fear of failure, my fear that I would never recover what I lost. That omission alone was keeping me from peace. And when I finally voiced it out loud, everything changed. I turned it over in Step 5, and with it, the weight lifted. We end Step 5 the way the Big Book instructs us. We go home, we find a quiet place, and we thank God from the bottom of our heart. We thank Him, and we tell Him we know Him better. And then we say to ourselves, have I omitted anything? Is my work solid? Have I tried to build my spiritual life without proper foundation? Because what we're building here, guys, is an arch in which we can walk a free man at last. Congratulations on completing your Step 5. Honestly and completely, you've taken one of the most courageous steps in this part of the program. Your journey to freedom is well underway. All right, let's talk about Steps 6 and 7. Step 6 says, when entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. It's about preparation. It's about being willing and being ready. It's about actually not about removing defects. That comes in Step 7. The authors say on page 76 that we begin to emphasize the spiritual posture required in this step. It says if we can answer to our satisfaction, then we look at Step 6. It suggests something. We have emphasized this willingness is what they're talking about. They ask us direct questions. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all these things that have been blocking us or that are objectionable? These things which have been we admitted that are objectionable to us refers to the character defects we found in step 4 that have been blocking us from a communication with God or higher power. These are the things that stand in the way of our usefulness, right? Step 6 is about becoming willing, entirely willing to let all of these go, not some of them, all of them. The authors ask us a great question. Can he now take them all, every one? Does he have the power? It's a pivotal question. Does God have all power? And if so, can he take over every single defect? And more importantly, are we willing to let him do that? Then they offer a spiritual turning point in the next paragraph where they say, when ready. This phrase signals a willingness that must come first. Readiness is the essence of step 6. It's very easy step. Only when we're entirely ready, meaning that we're not clinging on to our character defects and our ego, can we move through step 7, which is a prayer. The prayer says, my Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you remove these character defects from me that stand in my way of being useful to you and to my fellows, to grant me strength that I can go out from here, Lord, and do your bidding. Amen. It's a very simple process. Notice the language. All of me, good and bad, not just part, but all of the character defects. All of me. This prayer marks a transitional step into step 7, to humbly ask God to remove all of these shortcomings from you and separate you from them. Step 7 is an action step that follows the readiness of step 6, our willingness. Now that we become entirely ready, we humbly ask God to remove these character defects that we've identified in our inventory. It's not a negotiation. It doesn't work that way. If it's not an attempt to work through our defects either. The authors make it very clear throughout the entire book that self-will cannot eliminate self-will. It doesn't work. My mind can't treat my mind, remember? Our defects are not removed by effort or intellect. They are removed by a power greater than ourselves. Some have confusion about this step and the ongoing efforts to work on their defects. But the language of the Big Book and the 12-step program doesn't suggest that we manage or fix them. Instead, we acknowledge them, become entirely ready to be rid of them, and then we humbly ask God for their removal. It's an act of surrender. We are reminded that we can't complicate this process either, that our job is not to figure out when God will remove these character defects. Our job is to clearly and humbly ask Him if He will. The timing is left up to Him. It's worth noting that some in recovery, you might hear advice to burn or discard that 4-step inventory after your step 5. Don't do this. This is inadvisable, as the inventory may have helpful reference point at this time, especially as you continue to uncover the patterns and overlook the defects. We also hear people say that they're working on their defects of character. I can tell you that doesn't work for me. If I'm working on my defects of character, I'm embellishing them and they're getting worse, not better. Trying to fix or manage our character defects ourselves puts us in a role of playing God, doesn't it? Our task is not to control, but to surrender. So now, if you're willing and you're ready to surrender those character defects that you've identified in your work that'll keep you from God, then I invite you to read the 7th-step prayer with me out loud. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character that stands in the way of my usefulness to you and to my fellows. Please, God, grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Congratulations, my friends. You've now completed steps 6 and 7. Let's move on. All right, let's start our step 8 and 9. Step 8, we made a list of all the people that we've harmed and we become willing to make amends to them all. In step 9, we made a direct amends to those people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure someone or themselves. Now, if you turn to page 76, where we read there, we need more action. It says, without which we find that faith without works is dead. Let's look at step 8. Got this list that we're making of every person that we've harmed and to whom we become willing to make an amends. You made it when you started your inventory. It means if you didn't throw it away, you're ready to make an amends list. Let's make the list. You already have the list from your inventory. You read further, we subjected ourselves to this drastic appraisal. Now we got to go out and repair the damage that we've done in the past. We got to go out and we got to attempt to sweep off all this debris from our side of the street that's accumulated out of an effort to live our life on self-will, right? If we don't have the power to do this, then we ask until it comes. Because if we agree that in the beginning we would go to any length for victory and freedom, this is where it gets into real action. Making an amends is the most correcting thing, the most freeing thing that you'll ever do. Turn to page 77. Third line from the top, it says, a real purpose is to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and to the people around me. This isn't about sobriety. It's about purpose. This is why we do what we do. It says that our man may be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. He's going to be more interested in demonstrations of good than bad, or talk of spiritual discoveries. This is not a fancy word for proving your spirituality. It's about sincerity and humility. It's about setting your ego aside so you can do this. In the next paragraph, they talk about the question of how to approach someone. Someone you hated. You go to him with a helpful and forgiving spirit, confessing your former ill, right? Expressing regret. Their amends are not always easy, guys, but they're freeing. They are the most freeing thing that you will ever do. The most important guidance in this section is to sweep your side of the street clean, not theirs. You don't talk about their wrongs. You only deal with your own, your part. And it goes on to talk about under no condition do you ever criticize the person that you're making the amends to. You're there to sweep off only your side of the street in a calm, frank, and open manner. Sometimes the result is healing. Sometimes the result is silence. Either way, you're free. The point is this: do your part, leave the outcome to God. That's the most important thing. Most alcoholics owe money, we talk about. We lose fear of creditors, and no matter how far you go, guys, you're liable to drink again if you're afraid to face this. You may owe financial amends to someone. You may owe emotional amends to someone. Some may be direct, others indirect. Regardless of that, these actions bring freedom, real freedom. You might lose a position of reputation or even face jail, but if you're willing, and you have to be, you must not shrink at any of this. Work with a mentor, or work with me when it's necessary. We'll come back to this. There are many forms of amends, and I cover them all in the 15 Promises series. Page 80 of the big book, I like what it talks about, taking a drastic action which might implicate other people, so you secure their consent. And later it says that we had to place the outcome of these things in God's hands, or we might drink again. You turn it over to God. Ask Him for the best possible outcome. It will happen. We are there to clean our side of the street only, not control the outcome. That's not our purpose. On page 83, there's a powerful line that I like. It reminds us that we are responsible. We take initiative. We lead with humility, without our ego. The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. It's not about doing the steps. It's about becoming a person of spiritual action. There may be some wrongs that we can never right. We don't worry about them. If we can honestly say that we would have, if we could have, we move on. Sometimes you won't be able to complete an amends, but you have to stay willing. And finally, if you look at the 9th step promise, what begins on page 83, there's a lot of power in that you get in this freedom from making your amends. This promise will happen for you. It says if we're painstaking about this, we're going to be amazed. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We won't regret the past or the damage that we've done. We're not going to want to shut the door on it. We're just going to comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace for the first time in our lives. Our attitude and our outlook on life is going to change at this point. We're going to realize that God is doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. It goes on to say, do we think these are extravagant? No, they're not. They'll materialize for us if we work at them. All right. Congratulations on step 8 and 9. Continue to take your inventory, and when you're wrong, you promptly admit it. Moving into step 10. Step 10 is an easy step. It's just the same as step 4 through 9, just a repetition, right? daily self-examination, admittance of wrongs, corrective actions, making amends. They place us into the world of the Spirit. This step is not a one-time event. This is a daily routine and a discipline. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness to our Creator. It's not an overnight thing. It should continue our lifetime, and this should be a daily thing, that we watch for selfishness and dishonesty and fears and resentments. And when these crop up, we ask God to take them and remove them from us. We discuss them with somebody else immediately. We make an amends if we need to. We move on. We turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love, tolerance. This becomes a way of life for us. These authors outlined 4 parts of this: the watch, the ask, the discuss, the turn. Watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Ask God to remove them immediately. Discuss them with someone else immediately. Turn your thoughts to someone that you can help. It's a discipline of spiritual growth, spiritual living. There are mechanics involved in that step 10. The final paragraph on page 84 began with the step 10 promise. We ceased fighting everything, everyone, even our addiction, even our alcohol, even our mental illness. This, my friends, is true freedom. It says, by this time, sanity returned. It says that we recoil from those behaviors like from a hot flame. It talks about the problem has been removed. It doesn't exist for us as long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. This promise is very conditional. It is sustained by continued spiritual fitness, prayer, meditation, doing the right thing. It goes on to tell us that if we let up on this spiritual program, rest on our laurels, we might head for trouble. It says we're not cured of alcoholism. What we have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of a spiritual condition. Simple. We must recommit every day to carry this mission, this vision of God's will into our activities. How can we best serve? Who can we help? What can we do? This is the proper use of willpower, aligning with God's will for you guys. Turn back over to page 84 and read it aloud. We continue to take a personal inventory. We continue to set right any mistakes as we go along. Okay? Regardless of that, congratulations. You completed step 10. Let's go into step 11. All right, let's knock out step 11. In the narrative of step 11, it says we sought through prayer and meditation to improve a conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. So before diving into this text, it's important that you understand a vital historical foundation of step 11. Much of what we understand as a spiritual discipline in Alcoholics Anonymous or originated from a Christian movement known as the Oxford Group. Remember, we talk about this, how it was founded by Dr. Frank Buckman. An Oxford Group emphasized that surrendering to God is a solution to life's core problems that were specific to selfishness and fear. This group heavily influenced the early members of AA, as you read about in the 15 Promises. And many of the principles in the Big Book are derived from the teachings. The Oxford Group taught that what they believed were the 4 absolutes were honesty, unselfishness, love, and purity. These were seen as divine standards in contrast to the Big Book that identifies selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear as defects that block us from God. When we seek guidance in meditation and prayer, we're taught to evaluate it. If what we receive is selfish, dishonest, fearful, and resentful in any way, it likely came from us as a human trait. If it's honest, unselfish, loving, and pure, it came from somebody else, from God. This becomes specifically important in practicing step 11. The Big Book does not suggest prayer alone. It specifically states we are to seek through prayer and meditation. It introduces us to an idea of two-way communication with our higher power, with God. If we talk prayer and we don't listen in meditation, it's like asking for something we don't really want to have happen. On page 85, they talked about much has already been said about receiving strength and inspiration and direction from Him who has all power and knowledge. If God truly has all power and knowledge, then it must most likely mean that He is the source from which we seek the direction from. However, they do talk and warn us about the dangers of relying solely on our own thinking. They warned us that we are often driven by fear, self-delusion, and self-will, and that there's a solution. that we begin to sense a flow of the Spirit unto us. To some extent, we become God conscious. We begin to develop this sixth sense about us. We got to go further. It means more action. Step 11 is that action. We are to develop a conscious contact with God. It involves both prayer and meditation as a daily principle. It talks about when you go to bed at night or you retire, you look at the day in review, in an evening review. Where have I been resentful, fearful, dishonest, afraid? Do I owe an apology to anyone? Just a daily simple review. Have I kept something to myself that should have been discussed with somebody else in person? Do I owe an amends to somebody? Was I kind and loving towards everybody in my day? Could I have done better? Was I thinking only of myself all the time today? Or was I thinking what I could do to help you? After this review, then I ask God for forgiveness for my imperfections, and I inquire what I could do to correct these measures. What could I do? Then I move to a morning review, right? On awakening, I look the other way at this. I look at the next 24 hours ahead of me. I consider my plans for the day. And then and only then do I ask God for Him to direct my thinking, that my thinking be free of self-pity, of dishonesty, of selfish motives. Then if I hold these in my conditions of my mental faculties with assurance that God will inspire me, an intuitive thought or a decision, I relax, I take it easy, don't struggle. He will direct me. If I'm doing this, it's impossible for me to drink again, isn't it? And they give us a beautiful promise in step 11. It says, what used to be a hunch or an occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of my mind. I come to rely on it. It means that with practice, my ability to receive divine guidance strengthens over time. It becomes part of how I operate my life daily. On page 87, the text outlines how to conclude that period of meditation. It says that we usually conclude the period of meditation with prayer, that we be shown all through our day what our next steps are supposed to be, that we ask especially for freedom from our self-will. This is how it's supposed to be done. We are to be careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. It doesn't work for us, does it? The Big Book does not stop at instruction. It encourages us to test our guidance. I know that early members practiced this thing called daily written meditation, where they wrote down their prayers and meditated and then recorded the guidance that they had received. They would then test those against their 4 absolutes. If they received messages of honesty, unselfishness, loving, pure thoughts, then it was trusted, it was from the divine. If not, it was from us. This method provides a practical way to practice a step 11 to discern between God's will and your thoughts. It also reinforces the principle that we're not cured of alcoholism. That's a DNA issue. It's a disease. But we're given this daily reprieve through spiritual discipline. Remember, the core purpose of step 11 is to seek God's will and the power to carry it out. This step is not about seeking sobriety from God or asking God to keep you sober. That's not His job. He's already keeping you sober. It's about asking, how can I best serve you today? Your will, not mine, be done. The promise of step 11 is very clear. It says, as we go through the day, we pause. When we're agitated or doubtful, we ask for the right actions and thoughts. By practicing the daily disciplines of this through prayer and meditation, an evening review, and asking for guidance throughout my day, we're brought into a conscious contact with God. That contact provides us with strength and peace and direction. All right, let's move on to step 12. Let's highlight those. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I try to carry this message to other people who suffer and to practice these principles in all of my affairs. Step 12 can be divided into 3 specific parts. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of doing these steps, carrying this message to alcoholics who still suffer, and practicing these principles in all of my affairs. This step marks the beginning of a lifelong commitment, one that will lead you to sobriety and keep you there. The 11th step focuses on personal growth and spiritual transformation. Step 12 shifts the emphasis towards service and continued application. We begin with a spiritual awakening. This doesn't imply a sudden or dramatic event, rather a result of completing the previous 11 steps as stated in the Big Book. A spiritual awakening can be sudden or gradual, but it will always be the result in a profound, life-changing way. It is the evidence of psychic change in us necessary for recovery. The second part of the step requires that we carry a message to all who suffer. This is not merely a suggestion, guys. This is a mandatory requirement. Practical experience shows us nothing will so much ensure our immunity from that suffering as intense work with others who suffer. It works when nothing else will. It's our 12th suggestion. Carry a message to someone else who suffers. Carrying the message means sharing the solution that we have found through this work. We haven't been tasked with saving anybody. That's not it. Our role is to just share experience, strength, hope, and guide others through the same process that's transforming your life right now. The third part of Step 12 is to practice these principles in all of our daily affairs. It means applying the spiritual principles learned in the steps: honesty, humility, service work, tolerance, love, discipline, in every aspect of our life. Recovery is not compartmentalized, guys. It permeates our relationships, our work, our family, and decision making. In Chapter 7 of the Big Book, it talks about working with others. It provides detailed instructions how to effectively carry this message of hope to others who suffer. If you do, life will take on new meaning for you. To watch people recover, to see their hope come back into their lives, to watch loneliness vanish, that fellowship grow up around you. Guys, this is not an experience for you to miss. You do not want to miss out on this. Don't force this program on anyone who's unwilling. Be understanding, not moralizing. Share your story, your recovery story of honesty and clarity. Introduce spiritual principles gradually to someone who's maybe willing. Be patient. Let that newcomer come to you. Additionally, the Big Book underscores the importance of being of maximum service to God and others around you. Your job, your responsibility is to now be in a place where you may be of maximum sufficient helpfulness to others. Both you and the new person must walk this path of spiritual progress. In conclusion, Step 12 encapsulates the heart of the program: a spiritual awakening, the heart of sobriety, the message of recovery, of service to others, like I do with you. This is the path of continued freedom and growth. Congratulations on working through these steps with me. I hope this series has been life-changing for you and helps you along your way. At this point in time, you may be gaining a full understanding that becoming a fully recovered individual is within your grasp, but it requires more from you. You must do your part every day. For some of us, real recovery comes through a direct mentorship and over a long period of time. That's why I want to talk to you about an opportunity for a very select few of you. Now that you're officially part of the inner circle of this, I want to offer you something that very few ever get access to. Every year, the Recovered Nation hosts all-inclusive 21-day recovery retreats. These are intense, immersive experiences where my staff and I will work with you in person, each and every one of you who participate every single day for 21 straight days. These are not group classes, guys. No, not at all. These are not Zoom calls. These are 21 days of intensive, deep, raw, life-changing work every single day. Every student goes through my entire 15 Promises to Freedom recovery program. And on top of that, every participant receives brain mapping and daily neural feedback therapy sessions to retrain their brain and restore the emotional balance to them. You also have catered meals, beautiful accommodations, and highly experienced staff to assist you in helping you through your personal transformation. Just these two benefits are of tremendous value to you. During your stay with us at the retreat, there are no distractions, there's no excuses, just total immersed focus, radical transformation, and deep healing. If you're serious, really serious about your recovery, truly serious, I'm willing to schedule a personal phone call with you to talk about the upcoming retreat and whether you are a good fit. But let me be clear. This is not for the half-committed, guys. This is not for someone who just wants to see what it's all about. This is for the person who knows in their gut that now is the best time for them to change and is willing to go all in. You have to clearly understand that there is obviously a cost to this. Something this intense and this individualized would have that. So if you'd like to discuss this with me in this opportunity, over the phone, one-on-one, and you think you're in the right place and you're the right candidate to be approved for the attendance of this program, you need to commit to a couple of things. First of all, if you schedule, make sure you show up for that call. I don't have the time to waste, and neither do you. This retreat has a cost, and it's an investment in your life, your healing, your freedom. If you miss your call, your spot will be given to someone else who really desires it, really wants it. So if you're ready to take this seriously, click on the link below, schedule your call with me on my calendar, and let's talk. Let's see if it's the right time in your life. Let's see if it's right for you, if you're the right fit for us. Let's find out if this retreat is where your breakthrough will finally begin. I believe in you guys, I really do. I believe in the healing that you're capable of. If you're ready to believe in yourself and you're ready to take the next step, then please click on the schedule below and book your private call with me now. Your future doesn't wait, and neither does this opportunity. I hope to speak with you really soon. God bless.